Well, for more on all things politics, we're joined by national political reporter for the Washington Post, James Hohmann. James, thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you.
So your colleagues are reporting that President Trump and Democratic leader Chuck Schumer have reached another deal today. Can you tell us about what this deal is?
It is a, quote, gentleman's agreement, White House sources are saying, between the president and Chuck Schumer to permanently get rid of the debt ceiling. The idea is, every 6 months, every 3 months, we have these fights over whether to raise the debt ceiling so that the government doesn't default on its bonds. And for presidents of both parties, this has always been a hassle. It always forces members of Congress to take tough votes. Republicans have long opposed doing this. And in fact, just this morning, Paul Ryan was very explicit that he thinks this is a terrible idea, that it would take constitutional power away from Congress, the power of the purse, and would allow the federal government to kind of inexorably run up its debts. But what we're hearing this hour is that Trump and Schumer have reached a deal where Democrats would sign on to something, the president would support it, to get rid of the debt ceiling altogether. This is sure to agitate conservatives who are already upset about the deal that was made yesterday.
Yeah, it's been very clear that congressional Republicans not happy about this deal with the Democrats. You mentioned Paul Ryan. I want to play a soundbite from Paul Ryan from just a short time ago.
The president made it really clear, and what he was aiming for in that meeting yesterday was a bipartisan moment while the country is facing two horrible hurricanes. And so what he made clear to us is he didn't want to have, look, personally, I think the debt limit in the credit markets, the longer, the better for the stability of the credit markets. That's my strong opinion. But he was interested in making sure that this is a bipartisan moment while we respond to these hurricanes. And he made that clear, and I think that's what his motivation was.
How do you think this is going to impact his relationship with his own party?
It's going to further fray relations, no question. It is sort of funny to hear the soundbite Margaret Brennan just played in her package about how it would be disgraceful to have a 3-month extension, and then to hear a day later Ryan make the comment we just heard. And I think there's no question Ryan and his allies are angry. They feel burned. They feel like they were lied to. An administration official told Paul Ryan the night before yesterday's meeting that the president was going to publicly endorse an 18-month extension. So they don't feel like Trump is an honest broker. They don't feel like they can count on him.
Do you think this gives Democrats leverage now? You've got issues like the border wall, tax reform, a host of other legislative achievements they want to get done. But do you think that now Democrats have the upper hand?
Well, so that's the thing, is I think we have to keep this in perspective. A lot of the coverage of the deal yesterday has made it look like a really horrible deal for Trump. But Democrats didn't actually extract any concessions. They just kind of set themselves up to be in a very good negotiating position in December. But that doesn't actually mean anything unless they're able to extract those concessions in December. From Donald Trump's perspective, he knows he couldn't have a government showdown over funding for his border wall with these two hurricanes happening. He thinks that he has positioned himself well for December when, he'll have cleared the deck of a lot of these kind of must-pass hurricane relief bills. And so Democrats and Trump both think that they have gotten the better end of this bargain. And a lot of Republicans on Capitol Hill kind of think Democrats probably did get the better deal. But we'll see in late December. Anything can happen.
I want to ask you about this meeting behind closed doors today. Donald Trump Jr. on Capitol Hill today testifying before the Senate Judiciary Committee. He, of course, has already admitted that he tried to collude with the Russian government to get dirt on Hillary Clinton. What do we know about his testimony so far?
Yeah, so we've kind of gotten some looks at the prepared statement that he gave. This is behind closed doors. He kind of snuck into the Capitol without getting caught on camera. But what he says is, I was going to consult with an attorney if this Russian official gave me good dirt on Hillary Clinton. The term he used in his testimony was he was trying to gauge Hillary Clinton's fitness to be president. In other words, he was trying to get dirt. Remember, their initial claim was that this was a meeting entirely about adoption, which we now know was not true. But what's most notable about what we know from the prepared statement is that Trump knew there were some kind of questionable things about getting dirt on Hillary Clinton from the Russian government or a Russian government representative. And he said if he had gotten something good, which he still claims he did not, he would have gone to a lawyer to ask if it was okay to use it. So in some ways, that's an acknowledgement that he knew this was a sketchy meeting to take place.
And do we have anything new on the Mueller investigation that's also looking into Russia's involvement?
Yeah, so we got word yesterday that Facebook has turned over information to Mueller and Congress about a Russian firm that spent more than $100,000 on ads during the election that were targeting U.S. voters in key swing states, kind of to help Trump. And what Mueller is interested in and what his investigators are looking at is whether people connected to the Trump campaign or allies of Trump himself were giving the Russians kind of advice or direction about how to target those ads, which would be illegal.
So there's nothing illegal, James, about buying ads on Facebook here, right? Anybody can buy an ad, even if you're from Russia. So the focus, I guess now, I mean, the big question people have is who gave them that information to target, like you mentioned, specific areas? Is that a big concern that you're mentioning?
Exactly, right. So, I mean, I guess it is actually illegal for a foreign government to spend money in U.S. elections. But the legal question and what Mueller cares about is, did someone connected to Trump go to this Russian firm and say, you know, run these ads in the Milwaukee suburbs because we're trying to shore up some of that support in our race against Hillary? That would be evidence of collusion.
Okay, and when you talk about this Mueller investigation, James, is there a sense of when he's going to finally come forward with everything? Do we know when the shoe will ultimately drop with this investigation?
We don't. That's the million-dollar question. You know, we know he's being pretty aggressive. He's gone hard after Paul Manafort, who was the president's campaign chairman last year. He's taken over the Michael Flynn investigation, the former national security advisor. There's a lot of balls in the air. There's a lot of rocks that he's turning over, looking at the president's personal financial records. And so we don't know where all those different trails are going to take Mueller. I think it's going to be a while before we get any resolution.
James Hohmann with the Washington Post. Thank you for sticking with us, James.
My pleasure.